Hello and welcome to day 80 of 100 Days of Tonalism. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and the study that we're doing today is by George Inness. It's called Approaching Storm. Those of you following this series will be very familiar with George Inness by now, as he takes up about a third of these paintings in the 100 days. Mostly because he's, the absolute genius behind most of what represents tonalism, and the synthesizer really of the Barbizon with the previous American schools of painting that were in place, and he really brought everything together along with, a lot of the best things that the old masters had done, Anyway, we've been reading recently from a book by Nikolai Sikorsky called George Inness. It's a nice hardbound book. I recommend picking it up if you don't already have it. We're on page, it looks chapter 5, page 61, and I'm sorry if I maybe read some of this in the previous video, but I don't think I did. Anyway, Europe. The period beginning in 1870 was for Inness one of unusual activity. He was mature as a person, 45 years old, and as an artist, yet maturity brought neither settlement nor contentment. And for much of the decade, Inness continued to move restlessly from place to place, as he had done before. Inness's art was equally restless and unsettled, for, in contrast to earlier periods in which a single style or idea tended to predominate, he now investigated sometimes simultaneously a number of stylistic and theoretical issues. This was not, however, a period of learning, although Inness would always be open to the influence of ideas, feelings, and other art. One result of this openness could be variability and unevenness, as a contemporary said, with a certain amount of exasperation. You do not quite know what to look for in Mr. Inness next. More often, the result was inventive vitality and creative renewability that few other artists equaled. Inness was notorious for impulsively repainting his pictures, at times changing them so radically that they became unrecognizable. The artist Frank Fowler remembered seeing in Inness his studio a painting entitled Dawn, which when he saw it several days later had been transformed into a sunset. When someone else was bought a seascape from him, looked for it at an Academy exhibition to which it had been sent, he found that Inness, attempting to quote-unquote improve it, had changed it into a landscape. Of a work in the studio, Inness's wife wrote, Thomas B. Clark, Inness's dealer and chief collector of his paintings, wished you could see it soon for fear of changes. But this also suggests how the development of each painting was a special case, the result of an individual impulse. Montgomery Schuller wrote, the outcome of which, determined by instinct, not regulated by habit and recipe, could be unpredictable. And that is one of the things about Inness. He's very vital in the use of his intuition. At the end of the 1860s, the Civil War had created conditions more receptive to Inness's art. The tensions of war produced an emotional climate sensitive to his expressiveness, and there was also a new artistic restlessness, a longing for change coupled to, and to a degree nourished by, a broader, more varied knowledge of art that produced a greater artistic tolerance and a deeper, more sophisticated artistic culture. As a result, Inness's art began to appear less strange and eccentric than it had earlier, although it would not be fully comprehensible for some time to come. A writer in the Brooklyn Eagle said in 1875, it's not often that Inness paints a picture which can be understood by ordinary people. And I think we'll leave it there for today, folks. We have more Innesses to come. We got 20 more days, and I'm sure at least a third of those are going to be Innesses. So thanks for joining me today for day 80, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 81. If you'd like to see more of my work, please go to landscapepainter.co.nz and see what my tonalist take is, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Meanwhile, take good care and stay out of trouble.